Hello, everyone. I'm Amy Woods, the Executive Director of Alumni Relations at Marist and a graduate from the class of 1997. We're very excited to present this webinar to you today, featuring alumnus and trustee Chris McCann on the topic of leading through turbulent times. If you encounter any audio issues, you do have the option to dial in by telephone. I have provided that number and code in the chat box and will do so again. Because I know you cannot see past chats once you log in, so we'll keep doing that. Due to the number of participants, we have muted all lines except for the host and presenter. We're going to reserve the chat option for any technical questions you have or general questions for the Marist staff who are listening in. Please do not send private messages to Chris, as he might not see them while he's presenting. Please use the Q&A feature for questions you may have about the presentation, and be sure to direct them to me, your host, so I can get them over to Chris. There are several ways you can view this presentation on your screen. On a desktop or laptop, if you hover over the top right corner of the video portion of your screen with your mouse, small icons should appear. The preferred choice for a webinar like this that includes slides and video is side-by-side view. On a mobile device, you should be able to swipe between the video and the presentation slides. There will be a brief survey on your screen at the conclusion of the webinar. It should pop up as a new tab in your browser. If you do have a minute, it would be extremely helpful for us to hear your feedback. And now I'd like to welcome first Chris Delgiorno from the class of 1988, who's the Vice President for College Advancement, for some brief introductory remarks.
Thanks very much, Amy, and Chris, welcome. I just wanted to take a minute to express my thanks and appreciation to you for taking the time to share your reflections on leading a major company through turbulent times this afternoon. I also wanted to bring you greetings from President Dennis Murray, who was really disappointed he wasn't able to join us for this afternoon's event, and sends you his very best regards. Chris, you really epitomize what it means to be a dedicated, passionate, and deeply committed Marist alumnus, and you represent the very best of our college community. As Vice Chair of Marist Board of Trustees, you're also playing a critical role in helping the college navigate these incredibly difficult and turbulent times, and we're incredibly grateful to you for your exceptional leadership and for everything you do for Marist and our students. Now, before I turn it back over to Amy, I wanted to take a quick moment to thank her and the members of the Alumni Relations team, including Donna Feldman, Amanda Benton, and Deb Gander, for the outstanding work they've been leading to help keep Marist alumni around the globe highly engaged and closely connected to our alma mater during these turbulent times. The rich and diverse array of virtual events you've developed, like the one we'll all enjoy this afternoon, and the other dynamic resources you've created, like the virtual Alumni Book Club and Marist Connections podcast series, have been incredibly well received, appreciated, and valued throughout the COVID-19 crisis. And I know they'll continue to play an important role in our efforts long after this crisis is behind us. Thank you for your excellent work on behalf of the college. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Amy, to officially introduce our featured speaker this afternoon, the President and CEO of 1-800-Flowers and proud Marist alumnus, Chris McCann.
Thank you, Chris. Chris McCann, as Chris said, is the President and Chief Executive Officer of 1-800-Flowers.com and is responsible for the company's operations across all of its brands and businesses. He oversees the company's strategic, operational, and organizational processes, including the development, implementation, and execution of annual, longer-term strategic, operating, and budget plans. Chris joined the organization, in 1984, helping lead the disruption of the flower industry with the company's innovative use of 800 number Watts line technology, and subsequently helping transform the company with the adoption of online technology as a pioneer in e-commerce. He served as president of 1-800-Flowers.com Inc. for several years and was named CEO in 2016. Chris has played a pivotal role in building 1-800-Flower.com Inc.'s reputation as one of the leading e-commerce and multi-channel retailers in the country. He is well known for embracing technology innovations that enhance customer engagement, particularly in the areas of social, mobile, and conversational commerce. Chris believes in the company's mantra that its best product is the customer experience. As a result of his leadership in driving a culture of innovation at 1-800-Flowers.com, Chris was named to the National Retail Federation's The List of People Shaping Retail's Future 2018. Additionally, the company was named one of 2017's most innovative e-retailers on the Internet Retailer Hot 100 list. Chris currently serves as Vice Chairman of the Board of IGHL, a facility dedicated to the enrichment of the lives of developmentally disabled adults, a cause that is near to his heart. In 2005, together with his brother Jim, he helped found Smile Farms, Inc., a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing meaningful job opportunities for individuals with developmental disabilities. Today, Smile Farms operates 8 campuses and employs over 140 individuals. Chris also serves as a member of the Board of Trustees at Marist College. He earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science from Marist in 1983. Chris, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us.
Great, and thank you, and sorry for that being such a long introduction. But I'm very honored to be asked to share my thoughts on this topic, which is certainly something that we're all involved in. And I'm very grateful and thankful for everyone on the line who've taken the time this afternoon to join us and to participate in this conversation. So I'll set a little background information, then we'll take a little break for some questions, then I could continue a little bit more with some commentary, and then some questions again towards the end. And hopefully that makes it a little bit more interactive. But I guess as I look at our business has been in operation, was founded in 1976. And I would say from 1976 for the first 25 years until about 2001, we really didn't have any major crises that we had to manage through other than the normal business challenges. Things like not being sure if you can meet payroll at the end of the week, and the challenges that many new founded entrepreneurial companies go through. But in the last 20 years, we've managed our company through 3 major crises. The 9/11 terrorist attacks, the first major terrorist attack on US soil, the Great Recession of 2008 through 2010, which was a different crisis, clearly a financial crisis, a financial-driven crisis. And today, the COVID pandemic, a global health crisis. And clearly, all 3 are very different, and each of them are unique. But at the same time, I believe what we have learned is that there are many similarities in how you manage through, how we managed our company through them, or I guess how we're currently managing through the current crisis of the pandemic that we're dealing with. Now, if I step back and start to frame out what we've been in the midst of, I think of an email I received on March 10th from a friend of mine trying to organize a poker night. And he sent out an email, said, let's get together in another week or 2, whatever date he laid out for poker. He said, I'll fire up the barbecue, the rest of you bring the beverages and the food. And then he's a bit of a jokester. So he says, then at the end, he says, and I'm thinking that I'll set up a TV so we could watch a movie while we're playing also. I'm thinking maybe we'll watch Contagion. Well, little did he know that while he was trying to just throw a joke out there, he was forecasting our future that we're all living in today. And as we look at what happened, as a company, prior to early March, we saw things really developing with this virus in China, probably back in the early January timeframe, when we started hearing the news stories coming out of Wuhan. And our first concerns were the potential interruption to our supply chain. And we were, that was our thought, and I guess our hopes that is all we would have to manage through with this challenge that was developing. So we organized our purchasing team, working with some folks with the leadership of our head of HR, Maureen Paradine, to really just be monitoring the situation, making changes as necessary, responding to what needed to be changed, understanding the impact that these interruptions to the supply chain would have for us, what parts of our business it would impact, what we could adjust to or could not adjust to. By late January, we saw things developing further, and we expanded this team to become our preparedness and response team. And as you can see on the slide, made up of a combination of people from across disciplines within our company, because we realized that this virus was starting to become more than just an interruption to our supply chain. And we activated this team with the responsibility for identifying and implementing processes across our company to ensure our business continuity, for sure, but also we started to realize that we also needed to really make sure that we're focusing on the health and safety of our team members. So we established this nerve center to provide seamless communication between leadership, the response team, work stream teams, and team members of our company nationwide. This group, I asked our General Counsel, Michael Manley, who's been with us just a little over a year and a half at that point in time, I guess, to really take lead of that group. And I got to tell you, he and his team have just done a tremendous job. It started out with this team providing weekly updates to my direct management team, the executive leadership team of the company, to provide weekly updates, monitoring what was changing. But again, what we saw developing much more different than the financial crisis, different even than the 9/11 attacks, was the concerns that we needed to pay attention to of the health and safety of our teams and other constituencies, and that really began to arise. On March 11th, as we all know, President Trump addressed the nation and to brace us for this coming challenge, which was now declared as of that date a global pandemic. So I think the president really caught people's attention that this was something different that we were about to face. But I think that what really convinced the American consumer that this was something different and we really needed to brace for it was when they canceled the NBA games that night. It's one thing to interrupt our political discourse and have the president address the country or our nation. It's quite different to interrupt the culture of America and to cancel the NBA, and then the subsequent sports that were canceled following that really made the everyday person take note about the challenges that we were about to face. So on March 12th, our plans really began to kick into a higher gear. My executive leadership team, we began meeting 2 times per day, once in the morning, once later in the afternoon. The preparedness and response team broadened their responsibilities, again, focusing on the health and safety and as our number 1 priority. And our number 2 priority was to really make sure, how would we keep our business open and keep our business operating during this time period? Things were moving fast. My brother, at one point joined my daily meetings, and I remember him relaying to our board that it seemed like our team was a submarine command team, just dealing there on the phone, on the video, things coming at us, things changing up by the hour. Things were rapidly changing for us, changes impacting our business. Our wholesale business ground to a halt, and that's where we sell food gifts and other confected gifts to retailers like Target, Walmart, Costco, Sam's Club, many others, TJ Maxx, many others. And that was the first area of the business that we were concerned about with the interruptions to the supply chain. That just ground to a halt, and we've needed to make adjustments there and make very difficult decisions as well to say if that business is being pared down, how do we pare down our cost structure within that line of business? Retail stores, we had to make the decision for safety reasons to close retail stores. Now, we don't have a lot of retail stores in our company. The brand that has the most or had the most retail stores is Harry & David, where we had 39 retail stores. Really 38. The one store by our headquarters in Medford, Oregon is a different beast. It's a different animal. But we have 38 stores around the country that we were forced to close for the right reasons. But then we also had to make a decision to say, let's not reopen those stores. And a very difficult decision to make, as it affected about 306 employees. And that's, a thing about leadership that I've learned and that we've learned as a company, whether in turbulent times or any time, that every decision has a negative impact. Now, the decision to close those stores was clearly the right decision from a business point of view and from a financial management point of view. But the negative impact was the impact on several hundred people. And something that we take very seriously, and something that I know that I cannot abdicate that responsibility to anyone else. That's my responsibility And then it's our responsibility to try and make sure we help those people as much as we possibly can, whether we employ them, as we have with about a dozen or so people, as home-based agents working in our customer service platform. Several, not many, were able to relocate their position, not their family, into one of our other facilities if they lived by an area where we had another facility, or just to help them transition into unemployment and other capabilities and severance packages that we gave them. So that's a challenge that I think decisions that you need to make, whether it's turbulent times or whether smooth times, those are difficult decisions that you have to deal with. And then we also had to make the decision to transition to a work from home model for those that could. Many functions in our company could not work from home. If you're working in a warehouse, in a distribution warehouse, you have to be there. We have bakeries, we have candy kitchens, we have popcorn factories, we have Cheryl's Cookies bakeries, and all of these businesses, these people have to be on site and on hand. So we really needed to pay attention to how do we protect the safety and health of employees that cannot work from home. And we'll go into a little bit of that. But the same thing on the work from home side, we needed to make sure we paid attention to their health and safety, which is not necessarily always physical, but maybe mental. And we recognized that our team needed to understand that we recognized that and that we were focused on helping them to feel secure, but also that our business is stable, and let them know that in the midst of all the change that we're going through, that they know our core vision does not change as a company. And our vision is really to inspire people to express themselves, to connect with each other, and to celebrate. And it's so important that I believe is to constantly reinforce that, so that they know that things are not changing underneath them. While change is happening all around to all of us, our foundation is on sure footing. As a business, we play a vital role. And I think in this pandemic, we were extremely well suited to play a very important role for people's health and for people's mental health and safety. And I think that it's important for our teammates to understand that would not change. The same as it's important for them to understand that we're also paying attention to the financial stability of the company. If I think back to the financial crisis during the mid-2000s, one of the most difficult decisions that we ever made as a company was I had to stand up in front of the company in a town hall meeting and let them know that we were cutting costs drastically in the company. And for the first time in the history of our company, we would be laying people off, about 145 people at the time. But I also had to communicate at that same time, especially important for the people who were still in employment, was that we were also making, while we were cutting costs, we were also making investments for the future. We launched a new business in that time period, 1-800-Baskets. We doubled down on the investment in a new business we had just launched called BloomNet. And then we were going to invest money in a new technology that was still emerging back then called mobile commerce, or not even mobile commerce at the point, but just mobile technology. Many people thought we were making a mistake doing that. But as I pointed out to those people, if we did not invest in e-commerce in 1993 and 94, when we were still losing money on those investments, where would we be today? So I think it's important to let the team know we have financial stability and that we're looking to the future. Communication is a critical role in a crisis. It probably moves up in my mind to the number one function on managing through any crisis. And as I've mentioned, communication of our stability, communication of our vision, and the role that we play in people's lives. Now, that's just a little bit specific to our company, because as we've seen through this pandemic, is that people really realized that there's a need for social connectedness. There is a need for people to reach out to each other. As we were forced into our world of isolation, that's when we all started doing the Zoom calls and the conference calls and reaching out to people, the Zoom happy hours. We realized that we needed to connect with each other. We crave that as human beings. And it's so important for us. Now, we've been very fortunate as a business that we are well positioned for people to turn to us. And it's important for our employees to know that customers are trusting us for such an important reason in their lives. So we doubled down on our communication. I'm very proud that we have such an outstanding workforce across our family of brands to focus on these things and supporting our team members. You know, we made sure that first we looked at all the ways that we could keep them physically safe, including telecommuting, A/B rotations for essential office workers and facility associates, social distancing markers, as you could see in some of these images that I have on the screen here. Creating protective barriers, building them ourselves when social distancing may be difficult. Acquiring and securing PPE equipment for our associates and for partners that we work with as well to help out any way we can in our collective ecosystem. Ongoing and daily disinfection of the workplace, and so many more aspects of it. That as we moved into this virtual work world and this new world, there were just so many moving pieces. But again, I believe that by delegating that kind of authority to a broad part of the management team, we had so many more people contributing to the solution that we were able to move very quickly. And I'm very proud of the team for that capability. You know, it really became somewhat of a rallying cry about why we do what we do. And again, communications are critical in the crisis. You really need to over-communicate. So we looked at how we could over-communicate with our team. We used to do monthly town hall meetings. They became weekly town hall meetings. We bumped up our newsletters to go out on a regular basis. Anything that we could do, but with communications also, I think very important is visibility. I learned that early on in the first crisis during the 9/11 attacks, and especially with our company being headquartered here in New York on Long Island, we were very much directly impacted. And people need to see management to know that we are confident, that we have a plan, and that we have a steady hand on the business. And while we're responding and reacting, we're reacting and responding on top of the platform that we have, the stable platform that we have, and the financial platform that we have. What we want to do is that to let them know that we have our priorities in order. And in this crisis, different than the others, our priority was on the health and safety and well-being of our team members. As I look at some of the things that we did, looking at whether it was the enterprise news function or different capabilities that we offered to our customers, it was to our team members, it was to recognize that how do we support the team members in the facilities, but as I mentioned earlier, that are working from home as well. Recognizing and offering them free membership to the Calm application, for example, that helps you with meditation capabilities. There's a new app that we gave them free access to, is an app called Wisdo, which is a company that we have partnered with to launch what we call connection communities. And these are communities that just help people get together and really do share what they're feeling. It's a community, you build a community to share with other people what you've been through. So a couple of the connection communities that we launched on our site was dealing with coronavirus anxiety, dealing with sense of loss. And these people could connect that way, engage with each other. And our company simply facilitates that engagement. It has nothing to do with the transaction from us. But I think also as we moved into this process, and I talk about visibility is different when you're working from home. It's much more challenging. So many of us have experienced where we're on these conference calls, these video calls all day long. But what I needed to do for myself and to make sure my management was doing the same was, besides communicating with my direct reports, I needed to make sure I jumped into as many video calls as I could of all of our other team members, whatever managed team calls they were having, just to say hello, just to thank them for their commitment, their passion. And I think that's so important. I lose track sometimes of who I'm talking to, but I just think it was so important to be jumping into as many team meetings. And as I said, my management team had to do the same. They had to have their own town halls on a regular basis and jump into meetings to make sure that they're staying connected with everyone in their department, not just their direct reports. So again, I talked about supporting our team members, the WizDo app, the Calm application, live meditation sessions that we offered to people, where we had, some meditation experts on the Thursday afternoons conduct across the country, a live meditation session, just a 15-minute break, but to stress with people that we needed to pay attention to our mental health as well as our physical health and as well as the business. And it was extremely important, and we would share on a regular basis tips and guidance on how to do that. There were stories that we would share with the team. We recognize, for example, we would recognize local heroes within our networks and those who had loved ones that are on the front lines. And we would ask them to share the story about how their family was coping with them working 24 hours a day, their loved ones on the front lines working 24 hours a day, and just share these just phenomenal, heroic stories. And I think it helped to bring the team together, because people said, oh, I didn't know that Bill's wife was doing that in the hospital, and the work that she's doing and the impact it's having on their family and the children. It just brings people together like that. We made sure as a company that we would send them gifts. We reached out to the people in the company to say, especially when all the nursing homes went into lockdown, say, do you have a family member who you can visit? While we still can, let us know, and we'll deliver a care package to them, whether it be floral or most of the time it was something from our Harry and David or our Cheryl's Cookies line, and things that could be shared in the nursing home. And I think it was just so important to share that information again with the team, to let them know we're looking out for them and we're looking out for their families. And I think that's an important aspect to make people feel comfortable. I think also that we work within communities, and we can never disengage ourselves from the communities that we work in, and we have to get deeper into the communities. So we prioritized helping and celebrating the frontline workers across the country, donating food to hospitals, food banks, and more, again, through our Community Connections outreach program. We worked with No Kid Hungry to help feed America's children during the school closures, which will probably need to continue. We've launched our Local Heroes program that I mentioned, including our BloomNet florists that helps surprise and thank frontline workers in communities across the country. And again, the reason to do all these things are certainly because it's the right thing. It's the right thing to do. But most importantly, I think it is important for our team members to know and to feel that they're part of helping. I think any group looks to say, how can we do things? How can we help? And we're just facilitating that as a company. This is our teammates. These are the people on our company that are doing their job to help people express, to connect, and to celebrate. And before I go on to some other aspects of what we've been through with this pandemic, I'd like to just open up now to make it a little bit more interactive, if there's any questions that maybe I could answer at this point.
So I was looking through the questions that were submitted in advance to see if any pertain to what you've already spoken about, which is a lot about your team and maintaining communication with your team. I know there was one regarding working from home. Yes. First of all, I would like to, how do you keep your employees productive while working from home? And have you noticed whether your employees are more or less productive while they are working from home during this time?
As we went into this, one of the questions that we had was that, how would we keep people productive? How would we monitor people? And quite frankly, the monitoring capabilities are enormous, but we haven't really utilized that monitoring capability. Digital monitoring capabilities, and we haven't needed to. I think we've all agreed that productivity has increased in many, many areas of the company. We realize, for example, in application development within our IT organization, that a lot of our developers are much more productive working from home than coming into the environment. Now, with that said, they also need to stay connected. So what tools do we work with? In our company, we use primarily Microsoft Teams and Slack as ways of keeping teams connected to that environment. So we've been very fortunate. I think, you get the benefits in some cases where you don't have the commute time to deal with. In some other cases, when you're raising a younger family, I think that's different. It poses different challenges when you have a young family around the house who are no longer in school and needing to be homeschooled at the same time. That poses great challenges and difficulties, and we need, as management, need to recognize we need to be flexible with people and understanding of those needs. So it throws us challenges, but I also think it's presented opportunities for us. So as we now are moving back into an office environment and have at different stages around the country, we're recognizing that we need to be extremely flexible. People don't necessarily have childcare in place. They don't know what it's going to be, what the needs are yet. We don't know what the school situation is going to be like. Some people are just scared. And if they're scared, don't worry about it. Take your time. Now, we are going to get to a point where we are a place-based work organization that complements our environment with work from home. So at some point, we'll get to that time. I don't know when that time is yet.
You mentioned communication, so there are a few regarding that. I think you answered a little bit with the products you're using to help stay connected with the team by using Slack and MS Teams. But do you have any tips to encourage communication across all team members? Because sometimes during turbulent times, people shut down, right? They may not be comfortable communicating, especially digitally. So is there anything besides these particular products that you can do to help encourage everyone to communicate with each other?
So I think the way we've gone about it really is from a combination of the tools, but then also with management skills and management capabilities. So I tried to stress that earlier when I talked about, for example, myself moving up to weekly town hall meetings.
Okay.
In addition to me, I need my management, my direct reports to be having their regular town hall meetings and then move it down in the ranks from there to the point where you just have teams that are working together. And how do you keep them connected and stay constantly connected? So it's making sure that we're staying solid to the vision and that we have our vision, we understand our role, use the tools and break it down. Break it down into smaller groups because people will shut down unless your team is reaching out to you and making sure that you're not shutting down. And it's not your manager doing that, it's your team. And what I find in any crisis, your team members look out for each other and they make sure that you're not getting lost. And it's not just from a productivity point of view, but I think so much in this time period, it goes back also to the mental stability and the mental health. And your teammates recognize that if you're struggling and if you have needs. And I'm very proud that we've had several people reach out to HR to say, hey, I think so-and-so is struggling. Can you check in with them? That's when you know you have a really good culture.
Yeah. So I don't know if you'll go further into this with the second half of your presentation, but we had a question about how you manage your changing strategy and how was that communicated throughout the organization? And how did your teams organize around that changing strategy?
So I think for the most part, our strategy is not changing. And I think that's an important factor for us to communicate. It goes back to, communicating the vision of our company to inspire connection, expression, and celebration. Now, tactics may change. For example, the decision to close the Harry and David stores was a tactical change to achieve our strategy. Because what we've seen is that things have accelerated. Change is always existent. Change is prevalent. But in this time period, we've seen change be accelerated. We've seen the shift from offline commerce to online commerce. We saw about what would normally take 3 to 5 years happen in 3 months. And we're seeing that happen in many areas of our business. So the way to keep people informed of the rapid acceleration, not change, but acceleration, is through all these means of communication to make sure they understand what we're doing, when we're doing it, and that they're not hearing about it second person. So that was extremely important for us. It was one of the main reasons why we sought to delay with doing a transaction on Monday that we've announced, which was supposed to be done originally on March 30th. But one of the main reasons we delayed that was because that business was being forced to shut down and we would not be able to communicate with that team. And we said, we can't acquire a company and not be able to communicate. So we were able to delay that through a bunch of litigation, but we were able to delay that process, and that's an important aspect. So let me jump in and go through a little bit more of the slide, and we'll come back to questions. Thanks, Amy. So besides our employees, besides the communities, another key area that we need to make sure that we're constantly communicating with is our customers. And, what we move to is, as I mentioned earlier, we're moving to a different type of company, one that's really about customer engagement, whether it's providing our customers with digital greeting cards, whether it's providing our customers with these connection communities that I spoke about, things that don't cost any money, but just build a relationship and develop the engagement that we have with our customers. And one of the things that we started in early on in this pandemic that we learned from our early on communications internally as we communicated to people about, hey, here's some helpful tips on how to get through, on how to deal with this, on how to deal with the isolation that we're going to face, the depression, the loneliness that many people are going to face. And we started sharing that out with our customers as well, and just checking in on them and asking them how they're doing and trying to foster a dialogue. And, just you could see the example here, but, some of the emails we got back from different people. Here's one. I've gotten 10,000 inappropriate emails from companies trying to capitalize on COVID-19, and only one from a company entitled, checking in to see how you're doing. Not trying to sell me a damn thing, thank you. Thank you for showing some humanity. When we started to get feedback like that from our customers, which we had already received from our employees, we knew we were onto something. Or another example here, 2020 never ceases to amaze. One of the most heartfelt brand emails I received during the pandemic is from 1-800-Flowers. No pitch, includes a useful toolkit, and feels like a genuine check-in, which many likely need. And that's moving to an engagement company. That's what we were looking to really get to and increase with our customers, utilizing the learnings that we had found from dealing with and checking in with our employees and the response that we were getting from them. And I mentioned that connection communities earlier. That's, I think, something bold and I think shows leadership, that in these times we launched a new service like that is dramatically different than what any retailer I know is doing, where we're just giving people a platform to get together with people who are going through similar challenges, similar changes in life, and to talk about it and to share and learn from each other. Because if we're a company that's about helping you express and connect, it cannot only be around the transaction. And the more we do that, the more our our employees realize that, and it shapes and changes the behavior of our employees with our customers. Back to what my brother has always said since he started the business, and the mantra of our business is you build a relationship first, you do business second. And different ways of engaging with our customers is looking at it through relatable sentiments. And as I said, this crisis has caused us to change the way we engage with our customers and how we communicate with them. And we're not out there pitching a discount off of our product. We're talking about opening windows and opening hearts. We're talking about savoring time together and different ways that we communicate with our customers. And I think from a communications point of view, it's extremely important that we recognize the backdrop of what the customer is living through and relate to it. And relate to it in a way that's authentic. And thankfully, as in the case of, as you saw from a couple of those emails I read, many companies do not do that in a very authentic way, and it turns customers off. So it's important that you do it, but we really have to be careful that we do it in the right way. Another big part of our ecosystem I mentioned early on is our partners. And our partners are many. Our partners are our shipping couriers, UPS, FedEx, DoorDash, Uber, others. It's our vendors that supply us our product, and it's our BloomNet florists that are a very important aspect of our network. And these are small, retail, independent flower shops across the country. Our network of BloomNet partners is about 5,000 to 6,000. And we saw going into this that this was going to be a very challenging time on our BloomNet florists, and one that we realized we needed to provide extra help to. So again, stepping in to take a leadership role by making sure that we help them get through this crisis. And the spring season, especially the Mother's Day season, is so important to these retail florists. that it really helps them carry through what is traditionally a slow period of time in the summer. And many of these florists were forced to close based on local and municipality and CDC guidelines. And many of them we were able to help get reopened just prior to Mother's Day. But it's just important that we recognize what we could do for them, and there's a list of things we did, from fee exemptions, loans that we gave them, PPE equipment that we shipped out to them, marketing channels that we helped them with, so many different ways. But mostly it's to recognize that we all play a part of our vision and our mission, our team members, our customers, our communities, and our partners. As I mentioned, Mother's Day is a critical day for our business, and we were right in the throes of the holiday. We just put out a press release just prior to the Mother's Day time period at the end of April to update the guidance that we have out there for the investment community. But we really had no idea what Mother's Day would be like. First off, we're working virtually. We're doing all the things we can on a virtual basis, from communication and keeping people informed. But we didn't know how many shops would be open or what capacity they would be at with the social distancing requirements that we have to keep everybody healthy and safe, and how they'd overcome all of the challenges of not being able to ramp up with people like they usually can. And I'm extremely proud that we had our best Mother's Day ever. And the retail florists, so far this summer, I think are holding up better than we expected to see that, better than our concern was, I should say. And just very proud of that. So I think as we do this, and as we look to manage on an ongoing basis, keep reminding people of our vision, keep reminding people of our mission as a company, stay true to our vision, stay true to the vision, mission and the vision and our values, and to communicate, and this is the last key point, I think, on managing through turbulent times, to communicate that the future is bright. Yes, we're dealing with some challenges right now, and we're making sure that we stay visible, that we communicate, that we talk and communicate the stability of our company, the financial stability, the stability around our strategy and our vision, and that the future is bright for us. Now, for us specifically, we're pretty fortunate as a company, because I see that this pandemic so far has caused 3 key trends, all of which our company happens to be well positioned for from an overall perspective. We see a tectonic shift from offline commerce to online commerce. It went from about 14% of total retail to e-commerce, now moved up to about 40% of all retail. That will probably settle back somewhere into the high 20s, early 30s, low 30s. But still, that's a dramatic shift that, as an e-commerce driven company, we're well positioned for. The consumer sentiment that has developed across the country around the recognition of social connectedness and the importance to express yourself and to celebrate all of life's moments, even in these turbulent times, and we're well positioned for that. And the third trend is the trend of nesting, people doing more and more celebrating at home and more entertaining at home. And again, many of our brands and products are well positioned. So we're very fortunate from that point of view, but it's probably the most important thing that I could ever communicate to our company during any of the crises we went through, that yes, we'll have some challenging times, we're dealing with it, but boy, are we confident in the future, and here are the things we're doing to position ourselves. So I thank you for taking the time, and Amy, let's open it up for some more questions.
Okay. Going along the lines, you mentioned the 3 trends, so we're looking a little bit toward the future. We had 2 questions come in that are related more to looking to the future of how do you think COVID will transform how consumers shop in the future? And what are your priorities for 2021? Have they changed due to COVID?
So I think, first and foremost on changing consumer behaviors, there's that shift to e-commerce. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine at Google month and a half ago, and I didn't realize this. We talked about e-commerce was about 15% of total retail sales in the United States, but we lagged the world significantly in that ratio. UK, for example, this is pre-pandemic, 40% of all retail sales were online in the UK. In the US, it was only 15%. It moved up to 40, and now again, as I said, it'll probably settle back down somewhere lower than that, but still a dramatic shift. And the other part of that we're seeing, and I would say not us as a company is seeing so much, although we're trying to build into it, is replenishment models. Whether it be food and people ordering food from home and a regular delivery, but more on that automatic replenishment model to say, these are the staples I know I need all the time. Let me just go into the subscription model and replenishment model. So that's a big change in behavior that's been there, but was accelerated. And as I say, that's the changes the thing I see that this pandemic has done more than driven change, is accelerated change that was already happening. Certainly, I think that's the case in higher education as well, which is a very difficult, challenging environment right now. As far as our priorities, I'm not going to share our priorities. I don't know which competitors of ours graduated from Marist. But I would stress what I said earlier. They're not really changing, but they're accelerating, because we see the opportunity in front of us to do what we thought might take 3 years, we can get done in 6 to 12 months.
I think that kind of answers another person's question about 2021, how you'll look to improve or modernize. So I will leave that one. Some of these don't necessarily relate to our topic today, so we can do them offline. I want to make sure we stick to today's topic as we get closer to the end of the hour. We had a simple one on success, an old question that never gets tired, on how do you define success, Chris?
What is this, my therapy session? How do I define success in business? So I'll answer from that perspective first. How do I define success from businesses? Really plain and simple, number of happy customers. I could look at a bunch of different things. For us in our company, we say our North Star metric really is, and it's the one metric that shows whether or not we're adding value to the customer. Our North Star metric is frequency, the number of times they come back to purchase from us. If they're coming back more and more frequently, we know we're adding value. If they're not, there's something wrong. So that's how we define success, or how I track success from a business point of view. How do I define success from an overall point of view? I think it really is, I'll combine this with a business and a personal POV. Am I doing something every day that I feel contributes to the world? And the world could be a very big macro world. The world could be my family, microcosm of my family. Am I doing something that's contributing to that? Am I passionate about it? And am I helping other people to grow?
When 1-800-Flowers, the offices went virtual, you touched upon this a little bit by mentioning HR, what you learned, maybe some folks brought forth. Were there any other unexpected things you learned by jumping into your different team meetings or learning from your team that surprised you after everyone went virtual?
Oh, yeah, there were lots of surprises. I think, one of the good things too also was that by being able to jump into a lot of those meetings, I was able to see the contribution of many more team members than I might normally see, and how they contribute. And actually, in some cases, got to know people even better. Because maybe I'd jump into their meetings much less frequently if it was in person, and it might just be in and out, and I wouldn't get to know them, but I'd be able to sit and get to see people respond. So I think that was one of the nice, pleasant surprises. And I'd flip that around and say, as we start to move back, quote unquote, I realized how much more difficult it is to move back than it was to move out. And the number of moving, and on both sides, the number of moving pieces is tremendous. And often people, and I've read a lot that people say in times of crisis, decision-making really needs to be centralized. And I would say on lots of decisions, like, for example, the decision to close our retail stores because of the negative impact That needed to be my decision, no one else's. But I think what we've been able to see and learn is that in order to move rapidly in this environment, we needed to decentralize a lot of decision making and put people really in charge of their area and say, do the right thing.
All right, as I mentioned, a few of these are more just business related, and we can do them offline. But I think you touched upon everything. We have people that want you to already look into what's going to happen on Black Friday and Cyber Monday, given the restrictions on shopping.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball, but I'll say that that becomes Cyber Weekend.
Yeah. It'll be a long weekend. All right. I think we touched upon everything related to our topic today.
Good. So to just wrap up again, I think, the key things that are extremely important all the time, but even more so in challenging times that we are, is increased communications. You can never over communicate. Increase your visibility. People want to see and feel comfortable that management has a plan, even if you don't. At least they think you do. And I find that to be very important. Let them know that there's stability. While the world is changing around our team, let them know that there's a home here that's not changing. We have good financial position, and our vision is solid. And then the fourth most important one, as you're dealing with all the changes and quick, rapid decision making, the future looks bright, and we're investing into the future.
Thank you. Well, in consideration of everyone's time, we will wrap it up. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, keeping Marist in your life during this turbulent time. And I'd like to thank Chris for spending time with us and sharing his expertise. I'd also like to reiterate what Chris Delgiorno said earlier and thank the members of the alumni and special events team, Amanda, Donna, Debbie, and Jamie Bauer, for their dedicated work on our virtual programming. A full recording of this presentation will be available in a few days on the virtual opportunities page on our website. I've posted the link in the chat box. I've also posted a link to all of our virtual events that are upcoming. We will have more coming up in the future, especially as the fall begins. We know everyone's a little bit busy in August, but thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Chris, and everyone have a great day.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Chris. It's a great program you're doing. Glad to be part of it.